All right, everybody, welcome to the Combatcast, and we got fights to talk about it, so we're going to get right into it. Chevy, let's talk about the sponsor.
We'd like to thank the sponsor, Game Up. They make a thirst-quenching adult beverage with a special blend of electrolytes. Comes in a variety pack with 4 great flavors: fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape.
Only 110 calories, low carb. Get yourself some Game Up. Enjoy some Game Up, and enjoy the Combatcast, which we have more episodes coming up. Tell them about it.
That's right. Next week, September 21st, we'll be reviewing this card, UFC Noche or UFC 306 or Riyadh Season Noche or whatever you're calling it. But we'll be reviewing this card. Yeah. And then September 28th, UFC Fight Night Moicano versus St. Denis. That's a very good main event. Have to look at the rest of the card, but that main event is great. And then October 5th, UFC 307, Pereira versus Roundtree Jr. at altitude in Salt Lake City.
I think I can understand the arguments of how Roundtree got that fight, but stylistically, I'm very excited for that fight.
Yeah, great matchup for sure. Yeah, I'm with you. Like maybe a little bit dubious, but with the Ankalaev situation, he was matched up with Rakic. I don't know why they made that to begin with, but he's matched up, so they gave it to Roundtree.
Absolutely. It is what it is. Let's, in the meantime, at least enjoy this fight. And, hey, maybe some people upset because Roundtree has the stylistic ability to get this done, I think.
Yeah, no takedowns happening in that fight for sure.
No. All right, let's quickly, before we get into the main event today, let's talk about this past weekend's fight night, co-main event, and main event.
Yeah, co-main event, Jessica Andrade versus Natalia Silva. Natalia won a decision. She controlled most of the fight with distance management, clean striking. She had some nice kicks. Andrade never gave up trying to chase her down, but she was trying to take one to give one, but she really couldn't land anything dangerous. So she got hit a lot.
Early on too that Andrade was not really respecting the power of Silva.
For sure.
Yeah, and I thought she was almost forcing Silva to fight out of her comfort zone, and it was backfiring.
Yeah.
It's like Silva was doing pretty good.
Yeah, her striking while going backwards was great. Yeah, she looked very good.
Main event?
Yeah, main event. Gilbert Burns versus Sean Brady. Sean Brady got a decision win. Gilbert's age might be starting to show a little bit. Sean was much faster. He looked to control the entire fight. Gilbert was really just looking to land like one big shot, and that shot never came, unfortunately, for him.
If I'm Sean Brady's management team, and I'm the UFC, and I see this guy with his record and his potential, I don't know if anyone's going to like this idea or if he's going to like it, but I would try to maybe book him with a fight with Wonder Boy. See what he's doing, see if he can get a victory over a guy like Wonder Boy, and maybe slowly build up his name too.
He called out Ian Gary. I think that's a great fight. Both guys, potential title or contender, number one contender spot on the line there. I think that's a great fight.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely is. I mean, that's a better call out because now you're trying to get somebody's name and the ranking too and everything too.
Exactly, yeah. But let's get into this upcoming UFC 306 O'Malley versus Dvalishvili. Riyadh Season Noche at the Sphere card.
Got it, baby.
Before we, so overall on the card, so this is a Mexican Independence Day celebration. There's a Mexican fighter on 8 out of the 10 fights on the card. It is a shortened card because there's going to be a lot of promotion and stuff in between fights. But 8 out of 10 fights have a Mexican fighter on it. 9 if you want to count Brian Ortega, Mexican heritage, but obviously an American fighter. But notable fighters on the prelims: Raul Rojas Jr. Fighting on the Fight Pass prelims, leading off the whole card. Obviously Mexican phenom, up and coming prospect. Yasmin Yarigi, Irene Aldana, couple good female fighters, all on the prelims. Keep an eye out for those. But let's get right into this main card.
I would say too, I'm curious. I haven't heard anything, but are the prelims going to look spectacularly different, or is this all saved for the pay-per-view portion of the card? It's kind of like the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I would imagine they're paying all this money for this sphere. You're going to see a lot of stuff in between all
Right.
the fights.
Almost like you would probably think they're going to probably try to tease something, like
to try to get you to buy the
different.
pay-per-view.
But wait till you see the pay-per-view, what we got rolled out. And I know they talked about cinema. That Dana said something about they're going to be doing cinema, basically like movies in between and then the fight. So I'm guessing almost like I'm picturing something bigger, like in the normal, promotional videos we get. So we'll see.
He made it seem like it was a timeline, and they were going to tell the story of Mexican combat sports. So in the prelims, obviously, you'd start at the early days and move on. So I assume that's what's going to happen. I'm excited because we really don't know what we're going to get. Yeah. Supposedly, this is the only time that they're going to use the sphere. If it's successful, that obviously will not be accurate. They'll come back. But apparently they spent like $20 million renting this place and doing all the production for it and everything. So obviously that's a lot of money even for the UFC. But it is interesting. So I'm looking forward to it. But let's get into the fights.
Let's talk about this main card.
So starting off the main card, Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osbourne, a couple flyweights.
Yeah. Ronaldo Rodriguez is 16-2, 7 KOs, 5 subs, 3 decisions. And he had one other victory under that, which I'm guessing is probably a disqualification or something. And he's 1-0 in the UFC, and he's won 6 in a row. So this is a big chance for him. Osbourne, 12-7-1. Probably fought a little bit of a stiffer competition. I think he's been in UFC a little longer. 5 KOs, 4 subs, 3 decisions. But he's on a 2-fight losing streak, and he's only won 4 out of his last. His record overall in the UFC is like 4-5. But again, you fighting tough fights. That's probably going to happen. I'd say Rodriguez is the prospect here. I'm going to go Rodriguez, kicking off the main card too. It could backfire, but I'll say Rodriguez is going to get a finish here. I'll say these two are probably going to go at it, and I'll say round 2 TKO.
I haven't seen much of Rodriguez, but I've seen lots of Osbourne. He's a tough fighter. He's a good measuring stick for Rodriguez to know where he's at, like coming into the UFC. I'm going to assume the UFC weighted some of these fights for Mexicans as it's a Mexican-themed show. Right. So I'm going to pick Rodriguez. I say round 1 sub.
Okay, nice.
Let's move on to a very exciting fight. Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics.
Right. Is 13-1, 7 KOs, 5 subs, 1 decision, 2-1 in the UFC. So, I mean, this is a guy who's got finishes. Daniel's 15-1, 7 KOs, 3 subs, 5 decisions. He's 3-1 in the UFC. Both these guys only lost their UFC debut. So, which is a lot of times nervous. So this looks like a very evenly contested fight. I'm going to go with Esteban. Again, I'm just going to lean into the Spanish heritage, the Mexican heritage here, and say that they get it done.
Well, Esteban is, he's not Mexican. He's from Argentina. Zellhuber is actually Mexican, which does not sound like a Mexican name.
But that's fine. All right. Well, then Zellhuber gets it done. I'm going Mexico.
Both these guys.
TKO
around 2. Yeah. Okay. Both these guys are Contender Series alum. Yeah. And both these guys are under the radar, super fun fighters to watch, very exciting fighters. Esteban just head kicked, KO'd Terrence McKinney. I don't know if you remember that one.
Oh, yeah.
It was very similar to that Gregor Gillespie KO with Kevin. What's his name? Can't think of his name.
He's no longer in the UFC, right?
Yeah, he's like been out of the UFC for a while. But yeah, that great fight with Tony Ferguson. But it'll come to me at some point. But where he head kicks him and basically sits him up against the cage. McKinney, is a knock people out or get knocked out guy. But this was a clean knockout for Esteban. I think both guys are going to bring it, and someone's going to go to sleep for sure. Zellhuber, pretty tall for the division, great striker as well. But I'm going to go against the Mexican themed here, and I'm going to pick Ribovics by KO in round 2.
Kevin Lee.
Kevin Lee. Yes, Lee. Thank you.
That's all right. I was thinking of Kevin Holland the whole time. I know it's not Kevin Holland, but I'm like, Kevin, yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to another great fight. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes.
All right. Diego, 25-6, 10 KOs, 12 subs, 3 decisions. He's won 4 in a row. 3 of those were finishes. His one loss was a fight of the night. Performance of the night twice, and he's had fight of the night once here. Which makes sense,
Also, was that loss was to Mosvar Evelev,
Right.
and it was short notice and a weight class like lower than where he's supposed to fight. So you can understand why he lost.
He's got a lot of hype, and he's doing really well with some great performances. But Brian Ortega, 16-3-1, 3 KOs, 8 subs, 5 decisions. Fight of the night 5 times. I mean, performance of the night 3 times. Ortega is definitely the measuring stick here for Diego. This is a big jump up. Ortega's fought for the championship. He had Volk in trouble at one point with a nasty choke. So he's been close, He knocked out Frankie Edgar before Frankie Edgar was starting to come. Like, Ortega was kind of the guy who kind of really started that,
Yeah.
So it's a tough one for me. But the thing is, my problem is Ortega's been inactive. He's getting sick at different times. Even the fight he won not too long ago looked like, remember in the beginning when he was jumping up and down, he was going to hurt his
rolled his ankle or hurt his knee or something.
I just got a bad feeling. I feel like these two are going to really go at each other, though. I see Brian Ortega possibly pulling out a submission. Like, I see him getting rocked. I see him getting beat up, and I see this going to the ground. And maybe not even a submission. Maybe Diego's the kind of guy who'll just pass out. But I'm going to go Ortega. I'm going to stick around 2, but submission.
Yeah, Diego's been an absolute buzzsaw going through the division. Incredible power, tenacity, and he has an elite submission game also. But does he have the submission skills to finish T-City on the ground? I don't know. I'm with you. I see Lopes dropping Ortega once or twice early in the fight. But if he doesn't finish him immediately, I think he's in trouble, because sometimes it seems like Brian gets hit early in these and he gets hurt, but he grows into these fights, and that's when he becomes super dangerous. So we know he can lock up a submission at any time. When he first came into the UFC, he was tapping out guys with seconds left in the fight over and over again. So people usually only go to the ground with him when they hurt him, and I think Lopes could hurt him and then feel pretty confident to follow him down, and I think that's going to be a bad idea for him. So I wish this fight was 5 rounds, but even so, I'm going to pick Ortega by submission in round 3, and I think this will be fight of the night.
All right,
let's move on to the co-main event. Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3.
All right. Valentina's 23-4-1, 8 KOs, 7 decisions, 8 decisions. She's the former UFC Women's Flyweight Championship. She had 7 title defenses. That's the most title wins in UFC Women's Flyweight Division history. Just looking at some of this stuff, second most combined title defenses in women's UFC history. First woman to defend the UFC Women's Flyweight Champion. Performance of the night 3 times. She's a beast. She's a Hall of Famer. Alexa Grasso, 16-3-1, 4 KOs, 2 subs, 10 decisions. And the biggest thing with Grasso is she beat Valentina. She tapped her out. Or actually, was it tap or unconscious?
It was a tap, face crank.
Right. She looked like she was about to pass out, and then the last second, right? We had noted going into that first fight that we thought Valentina was slipping a little bit. She was still getting the job done, but it wasn't as impressive. And we were wondering if people were starting to catch her or if she's just slipping. And Grasso got her that night. And it was, I remember, you listen to the countdown special, Valentina tells her like she was winning that fight until she wasn't. And that's not really how I remember. I remember Valentina was doing good, but Grasso had her moments and it was kind of back and forth. And then Valentina made that mistake with a spinning elbow, which Grasso had really planned for all the time. And she immediately was ready for it. Took her down, got her back, choked her out. Then we have the rematch. And Valentina looked better than we'd ever seen her. She looked sharp. And it was a draw. And it was arguable who won. I know some people thought Valentina, some thought Grasso. I was really, really split on it. Gun to my head, I thought Valentina might have eked out a decision. But,
Same.
Yeah. But here we are now, another year later. And what kind of effort did it take from Valentina to get to that point? Does she have it in her to do this one more time at this weight class? I don't know. It's tough. Again, maybe what I said, when it's going to get close, I'm going to lean towards the Mexican side here. So I'm going to go with Grasso, but I'm going to go with Grasso by decision. I could see this going either way. I could see this going to a draw again, but I'm going to go Grasso.
Yeah. At what point does father time come for Valentina? She's 36. This is the time where you start worrying about those kinds of things because it can be a steep drop off. Split draw with Grasso last year that I thought she won.
Right.
Grasso still improving, obviously, just getting better and better. But that being said, I think she's going to get the best version of Valentina that we've seen in a while. Like you were saying, she had that Talia Santos fight where I thought she lost that fight and she somehow got a decision win there. And then obviously, overlooked Grasso, got caught. I, like you, thought she was not winning that fight anyway before she got caught and face cranked. And then the split decision, I thought she won the split decision, but yes, it was very close. But I think Valentina knows exactly what she needs to bring. I think Grasso might have the issue that Valentina had where she might be a little bit overconfident, thinking, okay, I've got her number at this point. I think this will be the best that we've seen Valentina in years, and I'm going to pick her by decision. But I'm with you. It could go either way. This is so evenly matched.
And I want to say this too, just win or lose, I hope Valentina doesn't call it quits just yet. I actually like to see her try to make a run at bantamweight one time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not cut the weight as much because, she did do very well at 135 before. She just ran into GOAT women fighter, Amanda Nunes. So, and really took it to her as well. So,
other than the one time where Pena caught Amanda on what looks like an off night now, and where Amanda just had that war with Cyborg that went one round where either one of them could have fell, and Amanda, put out Cyborg's lights. There's nobody that really tested Amanda like Valentina. Those were two close fights. I think both might have been split decisions too. I'm not positive, but they were close.
Kat Zingano brought it to Amanda early too, before she was the terminator of that is Amanda Nunes.
I'm thinking of Amanda as champion.
Yeah.
You're right. Early on, Kat Zingano got a brain injury because of that.
Yeah, brain trauma for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's crazy. But I think she definitely at least owes it to herself to try to go to bantamweight if she still wants to continue her career. I think if she wins the title, you look at her maybe trying to spice it up and maybe make her a double champ.
If her and Kayla would be a great fight too,
Yeah.
If that's where that ends up, because I assume Kayla is going to end up being the champ, one way or another. But her and Valentina is a great fight.
Either way, yeah. I mean, you got the size and the strength of Kayla Harrison, dominant wrestling, but then you have the overall skills of a Valentina who could just catch you with a head kick coming in or armbar you. I mean, she has those skills. I mean, I remember a fight she had with Pena where Pena was looking pretty good, took her down. Next thing you know, you're in an armbar.
Yep. Yeah. And they were talking about before that, just how she's such this great Muay Thai fighter, but doesn't have that much grappling, and then armbarred her like a minute later. But yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. This is a good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. But let's talk about the main event here. Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvallishvili.
Well, you talk about a guy who earned this title. Merab, he's definitely earned his title shot. 17-4, 3 KOs, 1 subs, 13 decisions, 10 fight winning streak. All right. Back-to-back wins over former Bantamweight champions. Last 3 wins were over former champs. Those are being, we're talking Cejudo, Aldo, and Peter Yan. So he's beating Yan, Aldo, and Cejudo. All right, going into this. I mean, what do you want? And, dominant in a lot of the ways that he won those fights too. Ragdoll. Performance of the night 1 time, fight of the night 1 time. 4th highest decision winning performance in UFC history. All right, 10 wins, 90%, second most decision wins in UFC bantamweight history. He's a decisionator, right? But I don't think he's boring because he's just constant motion. But it depends on your cup of tea.
He's also not holding guys down. He's taking them down. They get up. He takes them down again. But
it's potentially a style matchup. Monster, nasty, just horrible matchup for Sean O'Malley. But Sean's a sniper, right? And Sean, 18-1-1, 12 KOs, 1 sub, 5 decision, current bantamweight champion, most significant strikes landed in a UFC bantamweight title fight. That was his last fight against Marlon Vera. All right, so important to note here, we all kind of, I think, laughed a little bit when Sean would say, I was mentally undefeated when he lost to Chito Vera the first time. And maybe it was something silly to say, and maybe it was kind of crazy, but he did continue to improve. He's continued to improve. He's continued to get better. Maybe he had some luck, some good style matchups. It was arguable whether he beat Jan, where it wasn't argued that, that Merab beat him. But, he caught up. He caught Aljamain, right on the jaw, knocked him out, and he just put on a crazy performance against Vera. So I'm going to say, as Randy Osgood in the comments, do you think Sean wins? Yeah, I think I do. And here's the thing. I wouldn't bet money on it, though. Like, if you told me to bet money on it, I'd probably bet on Sean O'Malley. Like, I'd say, not Sean, I'd bet on Merab, because the wrestling matchup is such I like the wrestlers in these things. It's wrestler versus striker, and usually the wrestler is going to dictate what happens. But there's something about the precision of the way O'Malley connects when you're coming in. Merab sometimes leans in with his chin a little bit. Merab had that cut going into this, and there just seems like these things like he's a little distracted. I wonder if the pressure is going to get to him a little bit to try to take O'Malley out and try to finish him and maybe go a little bit too much with his hands. I don't know that, but there's just something in the air where I feel like O'Malley's going to catch Merab, and I feel we're looking at something like Conor back in the day. Like, he's going to catch him in round 1. It's just written in the stars, and he's going to fucking be off to the races, and this is going to be the next huge, if it wasn't already, it's going to be even a bigger, huge star for the UFC. Might not happen. Don't quote me on it. Merab might wreck this guy, but I just got a feeling that O'Malley's going to catch him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Before the Aljo fight, or really before the Peter Yan fight, I would say Merab destroys Sean. Takes him down over and over and over for 5 rounds. But now I'm not so sure. I know that Merab will take him down, but I've seen Merab get clipped a lot. And like you said, Sean's a sniper. And I think if he hits different than other guys at 135, and I think it's what you alluded to, that comparison to Conor, where it's the precision, not necessarily the power. And He just touches guys in the right spot at the right time when they're coming in, and he times it so well, and it just has devastating effects. So I also think his grappling is underrated. So I think he was winning, beating these real grapplers in these grappling tournaments. It just never makes it there in his MMA. Obviously, he'll be on the ground at some point in this fight. We'll see it, but I think he's going to be able to get up. But even more underrated than that, I think, is his and his team's ability to game plan for fighters. Right. And so I think him and his coach have a very, very good relationship. His coach is a former fighter, didn't really make it. He had a lot of injuries and stuff. So they came up together. So they're super, super close. And I think they're very similar brain wavelengths, and they think about the game very similarly. So his coach can see something, and Sean is very good at executing it. So I think they have probably a good game plan for Merab. They've got a lot of tape on him with all those decisions. Sure. He does get touched. I think they're going to execute a good game plan. I think Sean catches him shooting in just like he did to Aljo, but maybe with a knee this time. And I'm going to pick Sean by KO. I'll say round 3.
I'm going to add this too. As arrogant as Sean O'Malley may come off in the media and his interviews, I don't buy it. Like when I see that team and how hard they work together and how he obsesses about that, I think in the gym he's humble.
I
And
think so
they're
too.
constantly working on it. And I think he's created this persona, which is probably an extension of who he is, because the best ones are, because he wants to make money for his family and he's trying to make a name and a legacy for himself. But I think away from it, difference between, him and maybe Connor and some of these other guys is he's like, okay, now we got to put the work in. And you get bits of that from time to time when they talk about things. Even the Aljo fight where he'll admit like he was nervous going in and he was a rough style matchup and we'll see how it goes. And,
I agree. I'm with you 100%. I think the exact same thing. He is actually a very, very hard worker, and he lives and breathes this sport. And his coach does too. So I think he'll be ready to go. And I love Merab, but I'm with you. The eye thing, the possible staph infection on his arm, first time in the title fight. O'Malley's, they're doing the face-offs. O'Malley's saying, which hand do you want me to knock you out with? Getting in his head. I think it's just a lot of variables that are going against Merab right now.
And Merab went after some fans of O'Malley too, I think, in the crowd. I don't think it turned into anything.
He was talking shit about.
They're upset, but I mean, even like, why are you wasting time?
He's done it multiple times, I think. So
I just feel it. Yeah, I feel it like it's gonna happen, but I won't be upset if Merab wins. I love that guy. He's a great dude. And one thing about Merab, when you listen to his interviews, I will say this: as much as we're talking about the mental game, he has wanted this fight since day one. Like, if you go back to his first win in the UFC, he was calling out Sean O'Malley then. Like, he always wanted this fight. He saw this at the matchup. And it might have been a fight that it would have been better if he got that. Not to say it won't now. Hey, you're fighting the champ now. But I definitely think Sean's made a lot of improvements. And it's gonna be an interesting fight. This could go, we've said it before, when you're getting these really, really good strikers versus these really good wrestlers, it could be a long night for the striker, or he might catch you coming in early. We'll see what happens.
This could also just be a Bilal Muhammad situation where he just comes in and dominates Sean, just, gives him everything he can handle, shows his best game on the night. He does, have the skills to do that. But, I'm like you, just there's some sort of feeling in the air where Sean's going to get this done. He has an aura around him right now, I think. And I agree with you. It's going to catapult him to that next level of stardom. Maybe the biggest star in the UFC if he can get this done.
And I'm just wondering, Canelo Alvarez has a fight this night too, right?
Yeah, he's fighting some no-name guy that nobody cares about.
Right.
That he's probably going to dominate. So
I just bring that up because Dana White actually did say in the tribute to Mexican combat sports, you will see footage and videos of Canelo Alvarez.
Of course.
Yeah, and rightfully so. So, I think that's kind of cool. And, if you're a Canelo Alvarez fan and you like MMA and UFC and you plan on, and boxing, you plan on catching some of this, then, you'll have a good night for him, hopefully. But anyway, it should be a fun weekend. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to this spear and just seeing the look at and seeing the presentation of this. Dana said, we won't know it was a success until it happens, but I have a good feeling about this one in terms of at least the presentation. And the fights, we'll see. I hope they deliver. Let's tell people we got coming up one more time.
All right. September 21st, we'll be reviewing UFC Noche, UFC 306, whatever we're calling this at that point. So looking forward to that. We'll talk about all this production and everything for sure. And then September 28th, UFC Fight Night Moicano versus St. Denis. Excellent matchup. And then October 5th, UFC 307, Pereira versus Roundtree Jr. Another great matchup.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights. Can't wait for this weekend. UFC 306. And enjoy some Game Up.
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com.